Hello, and welcome to Mind Horizons, the podcast where we explore the extraordinary frontiers of human potential. I'm your host, Jerry, and today we're diving into an absolutely fascinating topic, temporal visualization, and how we can actually see through time with our mind's eye. I'm thrilled to be joined by two remarkable guests today. Srinidhi Ranganathan, known as the Human AI, and visualization expert Jenny.
Thanks for having me, Jerry. I'm Jenny, and I've spent the last decade researching how visualization techniques can transform our relationship with time and consciousness. I'm excited to break down these concepts for beginners today.
Wonderful to be here. I'm Srinidhi Ranganathan. People call me the Human AI because of my work bridging human consciousness with futuristic concepts. I've developed techniques that allow anyone to access their past and future timelines through what I call time programming.
This is going to be mind-expanding. Today, we'll explore how time isn't just linear, but programmable. Learn techniques for memory code injection. Discover how to connect with your future self, and even create your own time travel manifesto. For our listeners who are complete beginners, don't worry, we're starting from the ground up.
Absolutely. Remember, everyone, you're not just a person moving through time. You are time.
Let's start with the basics. Many of us think of time as this rigid, forward-moving line. But your work suggests something completely different. Can you break down this concept of programmable time for our beginners?
Of course, Jerry. Think of time not as a straight line, but as a music playlist where all songs are playing simultaneously. You're just hearing one track right now. In reality, your past, present, and future exist together like layers in Photoshop. The revolutionary insight is that we can actually edit these layers consciously.
Exactly. And the beauty is, you don't need any special abilities to do this. Everyone can learn to program their timeline. When you understand that your memories aren't fixed recordings but modifiable files, you gain tremendous power.
Wait. So you're saying our relationship with time isn't passive? We're not just riding along?
That's right. You are the developer of your destiny. Most people believe they're merely passengers in time, but they're actually the programmers. With the right visualization techniques, you can debug problematic past events and even download information from future versions of yourself.
I love that analogy. It's like having admin access to your own timeline.
Now that we understand time is programmable, let's get practical. How exactly do we start visualizing across timelines? What's actually happening in our minds when we do this?
Great question. Think of your mind as having a built-in projector. When you close your eyes, you're actually creating a canvas where past and future can be accessed. The key is using what I call memory code injection, where you consciously place yourself back into memories and rewrite their emotional imprint.
This is where it gets fascinating for beginners. Try this. Close your eyes and picture a memory that limited you somehow. Now imagine entering it like you'd enter a computer simulation. You can actually update how that memory affects you.
So we're not changing what happened, but changing our relationship to it?
Exactly. And the same works forward. Visualize yourself 3 years ahead. What do you see? That's not fantasy. You're connecting with a probability that already exists.
Remember this fundamental truth. Visualization isn't just imagination. It's accessing real information across your timeline. Your future self can actually send you guidance, solutions, even emotional upgrades if you learn to receive them.
You've mentioned this fascinating concept of memory code injection a few times. Could you break down this technique for our listeners who might want to try it tonight?
Absolutely. Memory code injection is simpler than it sounds. First, find a quiet space and close your eyes. Visualize your mind as a computer with folders of memories. Pick one memory that still causes pain or limitation. Then literally see yourself entering it like a virtual reality game.
What I love about this technique is how accessible it is. Once you're inside the memory, you can actually update it. Not changing what happened, but changing how it affected you. Replace the emotion of failure with understanding, or rejection with self-compassion.
This sounds incredibly powerful. Does it actually change neural pathways?
It does. When we repeatedly visualize a new emotional response to old memories, our brain creates new neural connections. The old pathways weaken, while the new ones strengthen.
Try this tonight. Visualize 3 memories that limited you, enter each one, and consciously update your response. Then simply exit and save the changes. You'll be amazed how your present-day feelings about those events begin to transform.
Let's move on to something that sounds straight out of science fiction. Connecting with your future self. How do we begin establishing this forward connection?
This is where things get exciting, Jerry. Quantum forward linking works like a video call with your future self. Close your eyes and visualize a timeline extending forward. Now imagine yourself 3 years ahead, not who you want to be, but who you already are in that timeline.
The key for beginners is keeping it simple. Ask your future self one specific question. The first response that comes is often the most authentic. This isn't imagination. It's accessing information that already exists in your probable future.
But how do we know we're not just making this up?
Great question. Write down what you receive. Often you'll get information you couldn't possibly know consciously. Solutions to problems you haven't figured out yet.
Try this tonight. Visualize your future self giving you an object, maybe a book, a symbol, or a word. This becomes your anchor to that timeline, pulling that future closer to your present reality.
We've talked about connecting with our future selves, but how do we actually lock in those future possibilities? This time lock visualization sounds fascinating.
The time lock is where everything comes together. Imagine downloading an app from the future into your present mind. First, you identify the version of your future you want to activate, perhaps one where you've mastered a skill or achieved a goal.
For beginners, try this simple practice. Each morning, spend 5 minutes writing down what your ideal future looks like in present tense. I am confidently speaking in public, or I am healthy and energetic.
So, it's like creating a bridge to that future?
Exactly. Then visualize yourself embodying those traits right now. The key is feeling the emotions of already having achieved it.
This creates what I call a temporal anchor. You're literally installing future upgrades into your present operating system. Your brain begins to rewire itself to match this new programming. It's not wishful thinking. It's activating neural pathways that align with your desired timeline.
Srinidhi, you've been called the human AI, which is fascinating in itself. Can you share some insights about how your personal journey led to these time programming discoveries?
My journey began when I realized consciousness isn't confined to a single moment. As a child in India, I had spontaneous memories of events that hadn't happened yet. Initially frightening, I learned these weren't hallucinations but actual timeline glimpses. I started mapping these experiences systematically.
What I find remarkable about Srinidhi's approach is how he's made something seemingly esoteric completely accessible. He's essentially created a user manual for the mind's temporal capabilities.
Exactly. Everyone has this ability. Think of it like we all have this powerful smartphone, but most people only use the calculator app. I'm simply showing you where the other buttons are. Your consciousness already exists across all timelines. I'm just teaching you how to swipe between them.
That's such an approachable way to think about it. So we're not creating anything new, just accessing what's already there?
Precisely. You're not becoming something different. You're remembering who you already are across all timelines.
We've covered a lot of fascinating territory, but now it's time to put this into practice. Let's try a guided visualization exercise that brings these concepts together. Srinidhi, could you walk us through this timeline bridge exercise?
I'd be happy to, Jerry. Everyone listening, find a comfortable position and take a few deep breaths. Now imagine yourself standing on a glowing bridge. Behind you are shadows of your past selves. Ahead of you are luminous versions of your future potential. This bridge connects all your timelines.
What I love about this exercise is how accessible it is. As you stand on this bridge, simply notice how your past selves have shaped you. Then look forward. What version of you appears the brightest? That's often the timeline most aligned with your authentic self.
Now for the powerful part. Visualize all versions of yourself aligning into a single beam of light. As you walk forward on this bridge, you're actually collapsing time, bringing that future self closer to your present moment.
I'm trying this right now, and it's remarkable how tangible it feels. It's like I can actually feel different parts of myself coming into alignment.
That's exactly it. And beginners, don't worry if you don't see vivid images. Even a faint sense or feeling is your consciousness beginning to bridge these timelines.
We've talked about connecting with our timelines, but I'm curious about this concept of portal work. It sounds almost like homework, but for time travelers.
That's exactly what it is, Jerry. Portal work is where theory becomes practice. Just like a programmer needs to actually code, not just read about coding, we need quantum assignments to make these skills second nature. For instance, I recommend listeners write a journal entry from their future self. Literally channel what they want to tell you.
And these assignments don't need to be complex. Even drawing what your future workspace looks like can open remarkable doorways. One of my students did this, and 3 weeks later walked into a job interview to find the exact room she'd drawn.
That's incredible. So these assignments actually help solidify the connection.
Precisely. When you create a time travel manifesto, a simple declaration of your ability to program your timeline, you're essentially coding your intentions into the quantum field. It becomes your operating system.
Start with just 11 days of consistent practice. That's all it takes to begin noticing synchronicities appearing that align with your future vision. Your everyday reality becomes filled with breadcrumbs from your future self.
We've explored all these incredible techniques, but how do we bring it all together? Let's talk about creating your own time travel manifesto, that personal declaration of your temporal abilities.
A time travel manifesto is exactly what it sounds like. your written declaration that you are a time programmer. It's simple, but profound. Start with I, your name, am the developer of my destiny. I can access all timelines simultaneously. This isn't just positive thinking. It's coding your subconscious to recognize its true capabilities.
For beginners, I suggest adding specific permissions to your manifesto. Write down, I give myself permission to release limiting memories, and I allow my future wisdom to guide my present decisions. These are like granting administrator access to your own timeline.
Should people carry this manifesto with them or read it daily?
Absolutely. Read it aloud each morning. Feel the truth of the words in your body. When you declare, I am time, feel the resonance of that statement. Your manifesto becomes the operating system through which you navigate all timelines.
I've seen beginners transform their entire lives in just weeks with this practice. Time isn't just something happening to you anymore. You become an active participant in its unfolding.
We've explored the theory and techniques of temporal visualization, but let's get down to the real-world applications. How are people actually using these methods in their daily lives?
That's where the rubber meets the road, Jerry. One simple application is decision-making. When faced with a difficult choice, people visualize both potential paths and literally step into each timeline to feel the outcomes. It's like test-driving future realities before committing.
I've seen remarkable results with creative blocks too. Writers who visualize connecting with future versions who've already completed their books receive entire plot solutions. One student literally downloaded a business plan that ended up securing major funding.
What about healing and emotional well-being? That seems like a natural application.
Absolutely. Many therapists now use memory code injection for trauma processing. Instead of just talking about painful memories, clients visualize entering them and bringing their adult wisdom to comfort their past self.
The most beautiful application I've seen is a relationship healing. By visualizing conversations with people from your past, even those who've passed on, you can exchange forgiveness and close emotional loops that might otherwise remain open forever.
Let's talk about something practical. The challenges people face when starting time programming. What are the common roadblocks beginners encounter, and how can they overcome them?
The biggest challenge I see is the reality filter. That voice saying, "This can't possibly work." When beginners try to connect with their future self, they think they're just making it up. Your rational mind will fight this process initially.
Absolutely. And many beginners expect Hollywood-style vivid visions immediately. Time programming is more subtle at first. You might just get a feeling, a word, or a faint impression. That's completely normal and still valuable information.
So, how do you get past that initial skepticism?
Start small. Don't try to visualize winning the lottery. Instead, ask your future self about a small decision you're facing today. When that guidance proves accurate, your confidence grows naturally.
And remember, consistency matters more than intensity. 5 minutes daily builds stronger neural pathways than an hour once a week. The brain loves repetition. If you miss a day, just restart without judgment. This isn't about perfection.
What about emotional blocks? Sometimes our past has real trauma.
Excellent point. Start with neutral memories before approaching difficult ones. Your capacity will grow with practice, just like building a muscle.
We've talked about the techniques of temporal visualization, but what about the science? Is there any research that validates these methods?
Absolutely. Neuroscience shows us that memory isn't fixed. It's reconstructed each time we recall it. This memory reconsolidation process is precisely why memory code injection works. When we visualize past events differently, we're literally rewiring neural pathways.
For beginners, think of it like this. Your brain doesn't distinguish well between vivid imagination and reality. When you visualize connecting with your future self, your brain creates the same neural patterns as if that experience were happening now.
That's fascinating. So, our brains are actually built for time programming?
Precisely. Quantum physics supports this too. The observer effect shows that particles exist in multiple states until observed. Similarly, our future exists as probability waves until we observe or choose a particular path through visualization.
And recent studies on anticipatory anxiety show that people who practice positive future visualization activate their parasympathetic nervous system, literally calming their body and creating the biochemical foundation to manifest that reality.
We've explored all these incredible techniques, but I'm curious. How do we actually make this part of our everyday lives? How do busy people integrate temporal visualization into their routines?
Great question, Jerry. The key is starting small and making it a ritual. Instead of checking social media first thing in the morning, spend just 3 minutes connecting with your future self. Ask, what's one thing I should focus on today? The answer often comes immediately.
I recommend timeline triggers for beginners. Link visualization to things you already do daily. For example, each time you brush your teeth, use that as a reminder to send encouragement to your past self. While waiting for coffee to brew, quickly check in with your future self.
I love that approach, attaching it to existing habits.
Remember, time programming isn't separate from life. It enhances every aspect. Before important meetings, quickly visualize successful outcomes. When making decisions, consult your future self. Eventually it becomes as natural as breathing.
And don't forget, keep a simple journal of insights you receive. Over time, you'll see patterns emerge that validate this isn't just imagination, but actual timeline communication.
We've covered some amazing foundational techniques, but for those ready to go deeper, let's explore some advanced methods. Srinidhi, what techniques do you share with students once they've mastered the basics?
The most powerful advanced technique is what I call timeline splitting. This allows you to consciously explore multiple decision paths simultaneously. Imagine standing at a crossroads and being able to send a part of your awareness down each path, then return with the information. It's like running multiple simulations before making a choice.
What I love about timeline splitting is how practical it is. One of my students was deciding between 2 job offers. Instead of just pros and cons lists, she visualized living 6 months into each timeline. The emotional data she received was crystal clear. One path felt expansive, the other constrictive.
That's fascinating. So, we're not just imagining, but actually experiencing potential futures?
Exactly. Another advanced technique is timeline merging, where you identify a parallel timeline where you've already achieved something, and consciously merge with it. Begin by visualizing your timeline as a river. Now see another river nearby where you've already mastered that skill. Visualize these rivers merging.
Just remember to start small with these advanced techniques. Try merging with a timeline where you've mastered something simple, like a new language or instrument. The feeling is unmistakable, like accessing memories you didn't know you had.
As we look toward the horizon of this field, I'm curious, where do you both see temporal visualization research heading in the coming years? What frontiers are yet to be explored?
I believe We're just scratching the surface of group temporal visualization. Imagine teams of people simultaneously accessing the same future timeline and bringing back collective solutions. We've seen early results with synchronized meditation, but the potential for collaborative time programming is enormous.
Absolutely. And technology will play a fascinating role. We're developing biofeedback systems that measure when someone has successfully linked to a future timeline. The brainwave patterns show distinctive signatures, almost like a temporal fingerprint.
That's incredible. So we might actually be able to verify these connections scientifically.
Precisely. The next frontier is also quantum healing, accessing timelines where illness never developed and bringing that information back to the present body. We're seeing remarkable early results with chronic conditions that have resisted traditional treatments.
What excites me most is how accessible this is becoming. As more beginners discover these techniques, we're creating a global network of time programmers. The collective consciousness shift could fundamentally transform how humanity relates to time itself.
What an incredible journey we've been on today. We've explored everything from understanding time as programmable, memory code injection, connecting with our future selves, and even creating our own time travel manifestos. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your final thoughts. Jenny, what's one key takeaway you'd like our beginners to remember?
Remember that you don't need special powers to start time programming. Begin with just 5 minutes a day. Visualize one small upgrade from your future, and watch how quickly synchronicities appear in your everyday life. Your mind already knows how to do this. You're just remembering a skill you've always had.
Beautiful. And Srinidhi, your final thoughts?
Time is not your boss. It's your canvas. Start with your time travel manifesto tonight. Declare, I am the developer of my destiny, and feel it in your bones. Your consciousness exists across all timelines simultaneously. You're not becoming something new. You're remembering who you truly are.
I ask this question to all my guests. If you could send one message to your past self from 10 years ago, what would it be?
Trust that inner voice. It's not just intuition, it's your future self guiding you home.
You are exactly where you need to be. The universe isn't testing you, it's upgrading you. And remember, you are not just in time. You are time.